Hey, you guys, it's me, Dr. Torie. My book is officially out. And yes, it is time to talk about ACEs. You guys can find the books everywhere. However, I would encourage you guys to go to my website, BeVicTORIEus.com, and place your order today. Yes, it's time to talk about ACEs. Let's go, y'all. Hello, 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 you guys. It's me, Dr. Victorious, and I am back for another episode of Be Victorious. Now, guess what? I remember when I started 50 episodes ago. Look at God. Look at where we're at. We're in episode 50, Marv.
Yeah, yeah, we on 50. This is episode 50. It goes by, don't it?
And
So
I think,
started off season one, took a
yeah,
took a little break, then we came back, then we took another small little break, and now we're kicking it back off with episode 50. What a good way to start it off.
I'm so excited to be back. Oh my God. We are in episode 50 for real. I remember when we were having this conversation just about doing the podcast all together. And it's humbling to see us at episode 50 with everything that has happened. We actually really have built an ACEs community. And it is humbling to see from the podcast, the guests that we've had that have already made an impact to get us to episode 50. This is humbling.
Yeah, shout out to everybody, all the
Yeah.
people that have, came on the show and shared their story. Some of the stories are amazing. All the stories are amazing because for most of them, they have transcended um, adversity, right?
Mhm.
And they have made themselves vulnerable so that they can help other people heal.
Mhm.
And that's just something that I personally can't thank them enough for doing because I know that takes a lot. That's not an easy thing to do, to put yourself out there in that way. So, and I thank you because, you have really made this your ministry, your mission, and you have educated me, so I've become an advocate. So when I talk to people, I tell them, hey, you know about this test that you can take, and they're like, no, I never heard of that. And I, say, hey, yeah, you can go right here, you can take go to Dr. Victoria's website, and you can take the exam, and you can see where you're at. And I'm explaining to them how, listen, now if you have I was talking to somebody today, she was like, I'll probably be like a 9 or a 10. I said, and that's okay, just like you always say. So, and now you have taken it even further. You started with the podcast, you have your educational business consulting, but there's two more things going on. We'll start off with the first one,
Well,
the
before
book.
go into the book, let me share. I think it's humbling because of the transition of how ACEs has gone in favor. Because when you look at the first people that were on the episode, we were looking for change. We were looking for certain things. And now with the updates, it's now no longer things that are happening in your household. It's things that are happening in your community too. So you see that transition that's going to happen. And I think I'm humbled by that too, because those were recommendations that I was pushing for. And here it is now. The CDC has made those updates. So the things like bullying and racism and things are there. And it's humbling to see. What's even humbling is that I do finally have a book. Thank you,
So
Lord.
so tell me this. What inspired you? Who inspired you to write this book? Because I imagine that, and I haven't received my copy yet because this is right at the beginning.
And
I imagine that a lot of this is your story. So when we talk about
well, see,
making
this is the
ourselves
thing.
vulnerable, we talk about making ourselves vulnerable. What
Yes,
pushed you to say, you know what, let me go ahead and put pen to paper and make this a reality?
this is the thing. It's going to be a series because in order for people to share their story, they really do need to understand ACEs. And so this book is the introduction to say it's time to have the discussion. So I really don't share my story yet because I want to make sure people understand ACEs first. So I use examples of, and I'll be honest, I started off as to what my motivation was for creating the book. And then my first chapter is addressing generational trauma, period. I don't cut or go to chapter 7 for it to happen. Nope. That's chapter 1 because I want people to understand and know that those inner child issues that we were dealing with were never our fault. Generational trauma is real. And in order to do that, I had to break down an example with my own family. Now, if we want to stop normalizing ACEs, we have to stop protecting our family. And I actually had to ask my parents, like, all right, now, I've been asking them for years, but this time I finally executed it and made it happen and put it in the book. So I explained my parents' generational trauma to help people understand where my ACEs comes from.
Yeah.
And then I also put in the book how it became more personal and turned professional by being an educator. So not just understanding your generational trauma, but pursuing my goals to go back to school, to get my doctorate degree, why I did it, and how I did it in order to get this discussion and make the discussion happen. So this is more or less like a self-help yourself, help your community, and then you'll be comfortable to tell your story because that's the problem. It's not that you have all these warriors that have been on the podcast that have shared their story. Well, everybody is not afraid. Everybody's not afraid to share. Those people weren't, but then there are so many more that are. And with the statistics changing from 1 to 3 that now have an ACEs score, and it's 1 to 6 that have a score of 4 or more, we have to get away from the stereotype of the score. And we have to get comfortable with sharing our story because now we know, just like when I started the podcast, remember, I thought I was in this on my own. And here we are 50 episodes later. I'm not alone. There's actually a whole community that has been built in regards to people. I love how people reference the episodes. Yeah, the episode 36, the one with, and it's like, okay, tell me more because people are actually using the podcast as an educational source to help them to share and help them also understand their story. That's how people know that they're not alone. So I'll give you an example. What I loved is when Leah did hers, Leah did her episode, but she actually looked at Lisa's first. So when Lisa did her episode, Leah made reference to that episode. And from there, I was able to connect them and the community is built. Same with Mick. Mick introduced me to Leah. You know what I mean? So it's like there's been a community unknowingly that has been built thanks to this podcast. So shout out to everybody that has been on this podcast. Um, um, it's so many people. It's 3 Leahs already.
It's so many people. If you leave a bunch out, try to remember them all. I mean,
Yeah,
we
like
got
it's
50
been like,
episodes.
and what I love is that this community joins me on Thursdays for lunch and learn. And people are really, really, really learning and asking, okay, so how can I be on a podcast or how can I be a part of the community? So this is actually what is happening. So yes, I started off as an educational consultant, and we created this wonderful podcast. We now have a book. The book, I'm having to do a pre-order for Chicago again because that's how wonderful the book launch went.
Yeah. You've really become the thought leader and the um, force behind pushing this concept,
Yeah.
this idea of confronting those things that happen to us in childhood. And I know that the person who was the initial catalyst was Dr. Nadine Burke. You talked about that, but I think that, you know, between now and episode 100, you know, we may get her on this show. I'm speaking it into
Oh, I'm
existence.
speaking into existence too, because I
And
will share. I
yeah,
have a whole
yeah.
shout out to her and my.
So the fact that you have done this, and like you said, you have created a community, because you know when you are trying to tackle an issue, it's too much for one person to do. So you really have to, you know, in business and in the military, they call it force multipliers, where you create your message and you get other people to believe in that message, and they come out and they carry it, and they become disciples of what you're doing. So you started off as a disciple of Dr. Nadine Burke Harris, and now you created much more, and they're going to be creating more people, and eventually we're gonna really make this something that everybody knows. Because I'm still running across people that say, I don't know anything about that.
Right.
And, and you know, that's fine, because you know, people know about, you know, if I want to be with somebody, they know about love languages, they know about attachment styles, and most of that stuff came off books that people read. People did the research and they put it out there. Now we know that you are an incredible researcher. Now you have your book that's out there. Now this is just the next step into bringing people into this knowledge about this idea that was created about how we tackle what happened to us during our childhood.
And so what I've done and what I loved and what I am receiving is the feedback from the ACEs ambassadors. They showed up and showed all the way out. No, it was humbling to see, because they are aware of ACEs. That's the generation that we need to reach. Let's be clear. They're adults. These are people that I have mentored over the years. I have been mentoring for 30 years. And so, what's humbling about Be VicTORIEus Foundation is that it was something that I created in 1995 as a mentor, and to see it in fruition, it's humbling, because they took over. The wealth of knowledge that they brought to the table, to receive the feedback that I received, it was humbling. I even had a young lady that is getting her doctorate degree. I am her dissertation coach. She is doing her doctorate degree on ACEs, and she brought her study so people can participate in her study. So it was a true experience for people to see, not just these young people from Chicago
So
over.
tell us about Chicago. Tell us about the whole Be Victorious experience. Start from the beginning.
It was just great to see. I have to shout out my event coordinators and planners that came through for me, because I wasn't there. So shout out to Karen K Events and Tamika Stevens. They did their thing. So it was laid out. They had spoke with Urban Lux Cafe in Chicago. It sits right on 79th, right off of Stony Island. So if you know anything about Chicago, right in the heart of Chicago.
Right in the South Side, South
On
Side.
the
Yeah.
outside.
Mm-hmm.
We started off with the panel introducing themselves. Shout out to my lead, Cameron Lindsay. She did her thing. She is at UIC right now doing work for ACEs right now in Chicago. And so the panel was full of mentees of minds that are now mentors. So they are educators, they are teachers, they are entrepreneurs. These are people that are mentoring right now and helping their mentees understand ACEs.
So
So
this wasn't just a book launch. So just so everybody knows, you know, Dr. Torie is um, launching this book. We're taking
mhm,
pre-orders right now. You'll start seeing commercials for the book.
mhm,
But this wasn't an event where the culmination of the work that she's done for years in the community in Chicago, working with children from the inner city who, being in the forefront of seeing ACEs happen daily with young children. We talk about community violence. Dr. Torie, unfortunately, is being front and center for that. So this was the culmination of years of experience, years of research. The book was the initial, like, this is why we are here, but the movement, this was like, okay, these are, like we said, we had the people that were on the podcast, but you also have another force. So it's like, the US has got, like, they got the Army and you got the Marines. So you got the Army from the podcast and you got the Marines for the people that have worked with you, they know who you are. They spent time with you. You've hugged on them. You loved on them. And they were able to sit there and talk with you to the community, in the community. Because when we say Stony Island, that's South Side. That's in the heart of the community in Chicago. You were able to talk about, okay, this is ACEs. This is why we're doing this. And from it sounds like it, you really helped a lot of people just by having this event.
What I did was open up the doors. We started and we paused so we can have lunch, and we opened the doors to the community to come in. And when we opened the doors for the community to come in, they were able to see the podcast. They were able to see the mentees. They were able to see them as far as their businesses and what they have done. They were able it was just a lovely sight to see, especially community come in and say, you have a podcast, interesting. I'm signing up for it right now. I'm interested. I want to hear more about it. So it was more of a tease for the community to see everything that we could bring to them. So the podcast, it was like, oh, I want to learn more. Or, well, how can I become an ACEs ambassador? You know what I mean? It was just great for the community to see that this is what's happening in their community. So they have access to come back.
That's
They
good.
have.
That's good.
Mhm.
And you'll be having this in Chicago
I
again,
More
um,
than likely,
Kansas
so
City,
well,
Dallas.
this is the thing. I I had already was interested in a book tour because yes, Chicago raised me, but I was born in Kansas City. And so my next stop definitely is Kansas City. I have to. People are waiting. They're already pre-ordering the book for Kansas City right now because the word got out there that Chicago sold out. So they're ordering for Kansas City right now. It's people from Chicago that are still ordering their book because people are talking about it. They left with a charge to have this conversation. And so Kansas City is talking about it. Well, I live in Dallas, so Dallas is like, so I mean, I understand that you were there, but you've been here for a while. And it's like, you know what? You're right. So right after Chicago, right after Kansas City, shall I say, I'll definitely have it ready for Dallas. But I have promised Chicago that I'm going to come back. I didn't even know to the extreme. I feel like I should have done a little bit more as far as marketing is concerned, but I think the word of mouth got out enough for Chicago to show up and represent. I was happy to have been invited by my sister, and I love her to death. She is the owner of Sunrise Cafe. It is a restaurant with elevated experience, and she actually moved to a different location. And so she invited me to do like an after party or after event celebration. And what I didn't know was how big it was going to be. My daughters told me to bring the books because I had pre-order books that had people's name on them. And she was like, just take them anyway, just to show, and display that, you're an author so they'll know who you are. And what I didn't know, I slept on that, was that the after party consists of Chicago's own DJ Ferris. It was packed. It was sold out. People wanted to know what was going on and who we were. So I went to the after set and had another book signing. It was that serious. People were
Good.
waiting. I was outside signing books and inside signing books. It was that serious. When people want to know information and when you open up for the community, especially something that they need to be aware of, people start to become interested. And that's exactly what happened. It was just amazing to see people were like, who are you? And
Yeah.
then that's when everybody else was like, you don't know who she is. And I'm like, I think I'm, advocating for ACEs. Well, tell me more. And they were ready. Chicago was ready. It was so humbling to see. And I thank Chicago so much. I mean, I couldn't leave DJ Ferris. I knew I had to catch a flight. But if you know anything about Chicago, DJ Ferris, he's going to keep you on your feet the whole entire time. And so I
So
myself out.
so we did the first Be Victorious experience.
Yes,
Um,
I would definitely do it
book
again.
is out, pre-orders. We'll have that link in the comments for the podcast and the description for the podcast. But not only are we bringing the podcast back,
Yes.
not only are we launching the book,
Mhm.
but we are also announcing the launch of the Be Victorious Foundation. So tell people about the Be Victorious Foundation.
I decided to do this because, again, I've been in education as a mentor for a long time. I started mentoring when I was 17 because I really didn't want the experiences that I experienced to happen to other people. And I've been mentoring ever since. And when I made the decision to leave public education and go on my own, I was still receiving calls like, Miss Williams, can you help me do this? Dr. Williams, can you do this? And I could not take my not leave my mentorship there. I had to take it with me. So that's what the foundation is. The foundation is a culmination of not just mentorship, but skills, trauma-informed education. And we're here to just help students succeed. But the students also are aware of ACEs and the impact. And so it's a mentorship program for us. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it is going great. It is going wonderful. Those ACEs ambassadors, again, they are the ones that are going to lead the charge because they have mentees already. And so our job is to make sure that we provide the educational services they need to help them overcome their adverse childhood experiences for sure.
So, you started with an idea
Mhm,
um, based off your testimony, your story.
mhm,
And not only are you advocating and allowing people to have a platform through your podcast
mhm.
to tell their story so that they can help others, you've also um, put a book out to help educate people. Brass tacks, this is what it is. And now you're also doing the work in the community.
Mhm.
You have people that are out actually working with individuals, children, young people that need guidance. They need that mentorship. Maybe something maybe you might have had, but maybe you wanted a little bit more.
Right.
So, question I have:
Mhm.
how does it feel to see these things coming together? Like it's not, I mean, it's a journey. This is a journey, right? So it's not like, okay, oh, we made it. It's not
Right.
time to throw a pep rally. I mean, we talked about how Chicago was nice and the
Yeah.
DJ and all that, but this is a journey. So we can have a good time, but there's still work to do. So, but how does
Yeah.
it feel to know that all this work and dedication that you put into putting these things into place are now starting to work?
I just know that we serve an awesome God. I'll be totally honest. I mean, everybody that has been following me, and I will shout out, I'll be honest, it was people from um social media that I've met, social media that I met for the first time. They came to Chicago. I had people flying in, I had people traveling, I had people that actually came to Chicago for the event. It's humbling because I know for a fact that I'm hearing from people that I'm saving their life. And this is what I want. I don't want people to experience the things that I experienced, which is the reason why I got into all of this in the first place. But just to see it, it's always great to sit and reflect. So I'm glad that we're having this episode because here it is, episode 50. And if we go back to the first episode, it was like, can we do this? Where we're doing it. We're doing the work. There are people out there that have lunch and learns. There are people that are having a conversation. Sarah and Mick are having a conversation on Clubhouse. Lisa's having her lunch and learns. Leah's doing her thing on Twitter. People are really using our platform to branch out and share their story. Leah Forney is just applied for Johns Hopkins University for a doctoral program. People are really using this as an educational tool, not just a podcast, not just Dr. Torie, but they are using the resources that are out there, not just to help them heal, but to help others as well. And it's humbling to me. So as I was talking to the people there in Chicago, I do believe that this is me. This is what God has for me. And this is my platform. And this is what I'm going to continue to do because it is really impacting and saving people's life for real.
So before we go, podcast is back.
It is. And we
What
actually already have some people lined up already.
what can people expect? What do you want to tell folks about the podcast? We took a little break. We had to take care of some things, right? But we back. We back, and just tell people before we go what they should expect. We got some doozies lined up.
And I'll be honest, I mean, to have people like already sign up, you guys. You'll see we had people, well, we can't get in this day. Well, you guys, we're starting to get busy and I'm okay with it. So the first slot that you see, sign up and we will do exactly what we've been doing, educating people on ACEs through your story. You tell us your story. And I know the stories are hard to share, but we've always created that safe space for people to share, which is the reason why people want to share. And then once you share what you're doing, your impact, what you're doing. And even if you're not doing anything, there are people out there. We've had therapists, we've had holistic experts, we've had people on the podcast that are not afraid of an ACEs score, that are not afraid to tell their story. So I would encourage people to look at the podcast. Look at the podcast. Look at the people that are sharing their stories. They're just like us. However, they stepped up to the plate, shared their story, using their experiences to make an impact on others. So I would say let's jump back in it because we're ready.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. You know, y'all can find me on my show, Man Listen Show. You see me repping right now. But I talk about ACEs all the time because I'm another soldier in the army. But tell people where they can find you, Dr. Torie, before we get on out of here.
Absolutely. I'm Dr. VicTORIEus everywhere. I actually jumped back on LinkedIn and it's actually going quite well. I'm on Facebook. I am on Twitter. I'm on TikTok too. And what I love is that the ambassadors have caught on. So I haven't even had a chance to make a post to say thank you. I'll use this podcast as my thank you for everybody that supported, not just the book, but the launch, the experience, everything. It's humbling. What's been amazing is the website. So please go to BeVicTORIEus.com. All kind of resources and tools on their website. Be VicTORIEus also has a website as well. That information will be available for you all too. We accept
the foundation, right?
Yes, Be VicTORIEus Foundation is up and running. You all will actually see we have some things that are going to be going on sale here this week in regards to the foundation and supporting the foundation. We've already helped so many students already. So you will see a lot coming from Be VicTORIEus Foundation, and feel free to share because even my book, majority of those proceeds do support the foundation. Absolutely.
All right. All right, well, that's it. We're going to holler at y'all next time, right?
All right, let's come on back. Be VicTORIEus Podcast. If you're interested, go ahead and sign up. The link will be provided to you. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye, you guys.